Tonight on Point Blank, it's just 3 days before the elections. We have in studio the NDC's Dr. Peter Boamah Otokunor. He was a Deputy General Secretary of the party. Currently, he is spokesperson of the party on the manifesto, specifically on agriculture. Dr. Peter Boamah Otokunor, welcome to Point Blank.
Thank you, Sanda.
How are you? Have you been missing in action?
Yes, this period is not a period where you would stay on action in the media. So I've mostly been on the field, toured the 16 regions, almost 276 constituencies. In actual fact, this year I've gone around the country 3 times.
Wow.
The last time I ended just this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and so that's why you are seeing me in the media now.
What did you see on your tour? What is the situation in the country?
I saw a nation that needs change, a nation that is crying for change, a nation in difficulty, a nation in distress, people who are crying for help. And that cry is the responsibility that has caused the NDC to run a campaign we have never run before. In fact, the responsibility of saving this country, because everybody cries and looks at the NDC. NDC, what are you doing? We want change. This government is killing us. Everything is difficult. Every sector of the economy, every sector of the country is being run down. What are you doing? And so it has become a natural responsibility that we must inherit. And so the elections is no more about NDC wanting power. It's about saving the country. And that's the feeling that you get out there. Irrespective of the group that you engage, they are poised for change. And they believe in the NDC. They believe that NDC is the alternative. They believe NDC has workable policies and NDC can save the economy. And so, for example, in Ashanti region, you'll be walking the streets and they will see you and they say, look, if you guys allow them to steal this election, protect the ballot. We are voting for you, but protect the ballot. We are voting for you, protect the ballot. And it's like a chorus everywhere you go. And so that gives you that sense that, look, the people are tired. They have had enough and they need a change. And that means that you must put every single measure in place to be able to rescue them.
Are you sure that this your so-called clarion call for change is not an imagination? Perhaps we are just thinking that, because you think there should be change, people really want change. For instance, which constituency did you go? What did you see that makes you believe that the people there really deserve change and want change and are asking for change?
I mean, absolutely not. This cannot be a figment of our imagination, and I'm sure you feel it on a daily basis. And if you don't want change at this point, then I don't know what kind of Ghana that you are living in. Everybody wants change. Even the MPP government wants change. Indeed, prices of food alone, prices of items on the market, is something that is driving people to want a quick change. For example, you used to buy a Gari Wolonka for 4 cedis. And now you are buying it for 70 cedis. Wouldn't you want change? You used to buy toothpaste for 2 cedi 50 pesos. You are now buying it for 30 cedis. Wouldn't you want change? You used to buy kenke for 50 pesos and 1 cedi. You are now buying it for 5 cedi. Wouldn't you want change?
You also understand that Accra politics is different from rural
I am
politics.
not talking about Accra at all. I am talking about everywhere in Ghana. It's, in fact, the rural areas are even suffering more than those in the big cities. The change is actually emanating from the rural areas, the kind of difficulties they go through. Last 2 weeks, I was at Navrongo, and we visited some community along the Tono Dam, and we met some farmers. And a woman came up. I felt very sad. I was teary because the woman has struggled to cultivate some rice, and she just wants a combined harvester to harvest the rice. And you know the thing about rice, when it gets to some level and you don't harvest it in time, you are going to be losing your investment. And for 3 weeks, they are looking for combined harvesters. Not her alone. Several other farmers that I've gathered, they can't get simple combined harvester to harvest the rice. And these are people who had even been complaining about the ICO project. You know about the ICO issue. And they have been complaining about the ICO director and how he's redirecting, irrigation water to other sources, and they are not get all the problems that, confront them along the the Tono
The
dam.
accusation,
And so
the accusation is that you're shouting for change, but you really haven't offered any alternative. What alternatives have you offered?
we have indeed offered alternative across sectors. Beyond the fact that we are presenting a candidate or a president who is more honest, who is truthful, who is compassionate, who is experienced, and understand the job more than any other contestant in this election, we have provided solutions, clear, concise, workable, pragmatic, practical solutions, every single area. When you pick our Resetting Ghana manifesto, it's a 200-page document. Every single page, you would see how we have clearly indicated the practical solutions to every single sector. And so, probably, if you have time, I would want to share a few with you, which is of, critical essence. For example, our economy is struggling right now because we are not producing. The economy is an import-based economy. We have relied on importation for every single thing. And indeed, last time I was doing an analysis that when you buy a kinky of 5 cedis and you do the cost analysis, you realize that half of the price of the 5 cedis is imported. Because even the kinky, the salt you put in there is imported. So every
we have done salt.
But are you getting the salt from there? Are you getting the salt on the market? You are importing salt in the country. You are importing everything, including eggs. Now egg is 5 cedis.
It's always been like that. When you were in government for 8 years.
Never have we imported egg in this country. Never have we imported meat like pork in this country. Now we are even importing pork. People in production are into piggery. Nobody's buying. You'll be feeding the animals, nobody's buying. Poultry farmers are closing down. In my farming community, there are other poultry farmers that I used to farm with. They have closed down. Nobody's operating because today, when you go and buy a bag of maize, 50 kilos, it's 450. Under President Mahama, you were buying that same bag of maize for 50 cedis when you go to buffer stock, for 60 cedis when you buy on the market. You are buying soya bean now up to a tune of about 580 Ghana cedis. When you used to buy soya bean, just some 70 cedis, sometimes 60 cedis when you buy within season. Now you are buying copra cake, almost 300 cedis. When you used to buy, in fact, copra cake was free. PKC was even free. We would go and gather them and use it to feed our animals. Now we are unable to feed the poultry, so you are not producing the eggs. And so you import the eggs into the country. And so what you have done is that ultimately you have put pressure on your local currency. And your currency can never perform because everything you consume here, you import. And that is what has fed into food inflation, and for that matter, general inflation and interest rate, and for that matter, exchange rate.
We have always been an import-led economy,
yes.
That, and you didn't do anything to deal with that.
I can say on authority that if I don't remember anything at all, under the agri sector, we brought broiler revitalization program.
What was that?
We were able to cut down importation of poultry meat by almost 54%. We were able to cut down importation of rice over 50% within the 8 years that we were in power. And so there was a conscious effort to increase production, to make the food available. And you see, the thing about food security is not even only about availability, but it must be accessible and affordable, then above all convenient. And so government policy must invest into these 4 legs and even more a 5th leg to make food available, affordable, accessible, to bring the general food prices down.
The government is not supposed
When we were leaving power in 2016, food inflation was around 9.7. Now, food inflation went up as high as 61% last year. Currently, it's around 26.5 or 26.7%. And so clearly, there is government's lack of effort. If they are putting in any effort, it may be a lackluster effort, or maybe bedeviled with moral hazard and adverse selection, making the policies ineffective.
Why would you blame government? And this is a government that has dug dams in the north for agriculture purposes. They have planting for food and jobs. They have planting for rearing for exports or something like that.
Rearing for food and jobs.
The planting for food and jobs, they have 1 and 2. They're actually in the 2nd phase now. And they've told us of the wonderful things they're doing. In fact, when there was a dry spell in the north, they compensated farmers. What else can the government?
So let's put this into proper perspective. First of all, the planting for food and jobs. Monies went in. They claimed they planted, but the food didn't come. The jobs didn't come. The objective ultimately is to produce food and produce the jobs. You and I are talking about inflation of food at 60%, 61%. So that means that the food didn't come. Then where is the jobs? The jobs also didn't come. There's rearing for food and jobs. The rearing is nowhere to be found. The food is nowhere to be found. The jobs is nowhere to be found. And that's why egg is selling for a crate 80 cedis in Ghana now, when egg used to sell for 7 cedi per crate in Ghana just 8 years ago. And so all these things that you mentioned are things that have not materialized. Indeed, the dams is one of the biggest charades of this government.
When you went to the north, you didn't see them?
The dams are non-existent. The worst of it all, you will see the dam, it has become football fields when they are playing football.
How?
Dams are supposed to collect water so that the water will be able to stay in the dam during dry season, so that the farmers can fall on the dams. But the dams, even before you enter the dry season, you do not have the water. And that is why we have had to deal with dry spell. Because if we look, Ghana is so fortunate, and some of the investment plans that President Mahama put in place gives credence to this opportunities that we have as a country. So the other landlocked countries up there, like Burkina Faso and all those things, they get heavy rainfall within a particular period of time, and so they have dams that they have built for the farmers for irrigation, and that's why you rely on them for tomatoes and for onion round the year.
We have always been relying on them exactly since you were in office.
Exactly, because of the it's worse now. We used to import. We used to spend about 800,000. No, now it's $400 million. But I think that it was 80 million. I'm getting it wrong. A year on importation of tomatoes. Now we spend $400 million a year to import tomatoes. So the differences are there. We can go into it. But the point I'm trying to make is that when they open the Bagre Dam and it flows down, a lot of water is passing. And we are getting disaster crisis that we have had to deal with. So all you need to do is to map up the routes of this flow of the water that is released from the Bagre Dam. And the projects that we did at the Tamni, then the projects we did at the Nasia Nabogo, what we initiated. Nasia Nabogo phase 1 is still incomplete. President Mahama commissioned Nasia Nabogo somewhere in 2015. It is still incomplete. A major irrigation project that can take care of parts of the upper east region and the northeast region is still incomplete. There is even on the programs a phase 2, which has not started. You understand? Pohalugu Dam, we have put in $12 million, nothing to show. This one village, one dam is the only irrigation project that from Nkrumah we have done in this country, and GIDA, Ghana Irrigation Development Authority, was not involved. You do dams without involvement of the Ghana Irrigation Authority. How do you expect to do the dams? And so we are suffering from this dry spell. More importantly, because of the lack of investment or proper investment in irrigation. But look at the irony. Dry spell came. Then the president announced, or the government announced, that they wanted $500 million to go and buy relief items for the farmers. Meanwhile, the entire budget of MOFA for the year is 3 billion Ghana cedi. When you convert the $500 million to Ghana cedis, it's about 8.6 to 9 billion Ghana cedis. So
but
your budget,
that's an intervention.
So your budget is 3 billion. The whole year, your investment and everything is 3 billion. Then you have a crisis, and you want to fix the crisis, provide relief items to the farmers, and you need 9 billion.
That's why it's a crisis.
Clearly, something is amiss. But you know the irony. The few monies from World Bank, which was meant for something else, which they have tried to plug in and use to buy items for election purposes to give to the farmers, they went out to go and import rice, to import food items. Which food items, when you go to the north right now, farmers who are growing rice have harvested paddy and they are keeping them on the shelves, and they are getting destroyed, they are getting stale. And you pass them and go to China and import rice and come and distribute to the same farmers under the guise of relief item.
Let's talk
what
about
intervention.
What can you, so in agriculture, what are the 5 key things that John Mahama is promising farmers?
Well, there are multiple things that we are promising farmers under the Agriculture for Economic Transformation program. And the first of it all is the Feeding Ghana program, under which we have the farmer services centers, the farmland bank program. We have the livestock development program. We have the vegetable development program, then the transformative grains development program, and the poultry farm to the table program.
Wait, transformation grains?
Yeah, grains development program.
Is it cattle business?
No, we are looking at grains.
Okay, I thought you were saying grains.
Because you see, the thing about agriculture is that they are interlinked. Livestock, every food must have carbohydrate and protein. So you produce the crops, you must get the protein needs also. But most importantly, for your poultry or maybe your livestock sector to grow so that you get the protein to support your carbohydrate, it depends on the crops itself. So it's a cycle. So the more you grow your crops, the more you are able to keep the livestock. And we are struggling. You have been a cattle rearer. I have been to so many of the communities that some of your family people are living in. I've been with some of the farmers. In fact, on Farmers Day, I was in Bidima, one of the Fulani communities where they have this cattle herds. And the kind of crisis that they go through, even how the cattle will feed, how to get water is a problem.
What's your solution?
But most importantly, let me deal with this grains thing. And so our program, for example, in grains, is that through the farmer services centers and other important incentives that we hope to give to grain farmers, we are targeting soybean, we are targeting maize, we are targeting sorghum, we are targeting millet. When was the last time you bought Hausa cocoa? Now, Hausa cocoa is becoming a food for the rich. That used to be Hausa cocoa and kose. Now, kose, the ingredients for kose, beans and all those things. The Hausa cocoa, the sorghum, the millet, it's now exceedingly expensive because we are not producing. And so under the Transformative Grain Development Program, we are looking at targeting this particular grains, particularly maize, so that we can bridge the deficit and be able to produce in excess, to be able to feed the livestock industry with animal feed. Soybean, we are in huge deficit. Now we import almost all the soya. That's why it's very expensive. And the local one that we are producing, now size 5, went up to about 1,000 cedis per bag. Just soybean to feed your animal. And so these are areas that governments must invest. But most importantly, all this crop sector development would ride on the back of the Farmer Services Center. So let me explain what the Farmer Service Center is. So we are looking at all the agro zones, the agricultural districts, having this Farmer Services Centers construct for them. This Farmer Services Center would become a one-stop shop for farmers' needs. And so the inputs are the biggest problem of farmers. And that's why farmers are unable to produce the quantities that they need. And the inputs are what? The seeds, the agrochemicals, the fertilizer, the land, and maybe irrigation facilities. Irrigation facilities are there to enhance the productivity of the farmer. And so these inputs have become exceedingly expensive for farmers. So a bottle of Gramozone, which is called condemned by our farmers, which used to sell 9 cedis per bottle in 2016, is now being sold for 120 cedis. In fact, when you want maybe the common one that is cheaper to use on your farm, which mostly are not effective, you would get it for 90 cedis. And so when you plant an acre of maize, you need about 5 Gramozone bottles or maybe 8 Gramozone bottles to spray throughout the life cycle of the maize. You are going to spend about 8 million.
So your solution is what?
And so the whole idea is to reduce the inputs of the cost inputs. Now, if you need a tractor to clear 1 acre of land, is 500. You need a fertilizer to apply on your land. A fertilizer that used to sell for 65 cedi in 2016 is now selling for 600 Ghana. So President Mahama is saying that the Farmer Service Center should be a hub where government will now procure all these inputs and put them at the Farmer Services Center. So that any farm, no, it will not be for free. So it's an intervention. So let me explain how the intervention will work. So government puts all these inputs at the farmer services, including the mechanization services, the tractors and the planters and the combined harvesters. And so because government is now subsidizing, government is now procuring and distributing, at the farmer service center, when you go, the prices will be exceedingly low because it is subsidized. This time, what we are trying to do, what we are trying to do in the agro areas, because it's not you don't grow crops everywhere. Okay. And so what we are trying to do is that we are combining input subsidy with input credit. You understand? If you look at the policies they did, the 1 and 2, PJFJ 1 and 2, PFJ 1 was input subsidy. It was taken over by moral hazard and adverse selection, rent seekers. It collapsed. They did the PFJ 2. They tried to shift. Now they are doing input credit. The input credit, they give it to some individual businessmen who go and procure the things, and they don't. You can't even find the farmers. The farmers don't even access the commodities. You understand? So what we are doing is that the age-old practice of input subsidy and input credit, we are combining all of them in one box. So you go to the farmer services center, the commodities, the inputs are heavily subsidized. Then when you go and you don't have the money, you are giving the commodity on credit, so that when you go and farm and harvest, you can use some of your produce to come and either pay, or you would sell the produce and pay with your profit. And so we believe that when we do this, it makes it even convenient. So it will get to a point where a farmer can farm throughout the season, harvest their crops without spending a cedi, because then there is that credit arrangement, but again the cost of the commodity is down, and so it enhances the profitability of the farmer. It makes it attractive for the youth to also participate in the farming. Then food becomes available in abundance, prices comes down, then you are able to save your currency from the kind of shocks that we
need to go. But how is Saturday looking?
Saturday is looking exceedingly very good. We are heavily prepared. We have never been prepared in any elections like this election. We have never campaigned in any elections like this election since I started following politics or following campaigns since 2004. I have witnessed the Rawlings's era and the campaign and all that, but the campaign we have done this time is extraordinary, and our preparation for this election is extraordinary. We have put the right systems in place, and I'm sure you have been a witness to how vigilant we have been and how we are policing the processes every single step.
If you ask me to be your witness, I'll remember DJ Boyenyo, and I'll say that instead of going to collate your you're doing Boyenyo, and then
you know exactly how the DJ Boyenyo came up. About we had not slept for almost 3 days, and I recall that they had declared us that we had lost the elections, and it was a very difficult period. And I remember when President Boamah was about to address the people, I had to charge the people. I had charged them for 20 minutes and he had not come, and I was tired and I had to leave. I had to leave, so I just said, Choboy, DJ Boyenyo, so that we go and take some rest.
Election night is a killer.
It's a killer, but this time around it's going to be
your system will not collapse.
It's going to be exceedingly efficient, and the results will come in time, and the people have decided already, and President John Dramani Mahama will be declared victorious by the 8th of December. Dr.
Peter Boamah Otokunor, thank you for joining us on Prime Line.
Thank you for having me. But I would want to visit your cattle farm very soon.
No, you're a pig farmer. I'm a Muslim. You and I cannot do any business together.
Are you sure we can do business? We can do cattle business.
Okay, if you wash your hands off the pig business. Piero, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
So that's Dr. Peter Boamah Otokunor of the NDC. He's a spokesperson on the Manifesto Committee, specifically on agriculture.